Hola, buenas tardes. Bueno, ante todo, presentarme. Mi nombre es Nuria Torres, soy profesora interina de la Universidad de Almería. Y bueno, quería agradecer la posibilidad de poder participar en este congreso. Muchísimas gracias y enhorabuena. Bueno, mi ponencia es en inglés, así que ahora cambio el idioma. Okay, well, so the title of my paper, it's called Traumatic Experiences, Resilience and Identity in Irish Contemporary Literature, Emilie Pine and Rosaleen Mcdonagh. Well, as a way of introduction, I would like to say that it is more than evident that diverse topics concerning women have remained invisible throughout centuries in the whole globe. But if we think consciously in Ireland and the way in which some things such as gender violence, abortion, infertility, inequality, disability of women, divorce, and women's rights in general have been dealt with, the intention of making them invisible has even been more noticeable. This paper has the pretension of offering a brief study of the Irish contemporary writers Emilie Pine and Rosaleen Mcdonagh, who write actively about all this, making use of essay genres. These Irish authors pretend to make these social problems affecting women and show evidence of their resultant consequences and trauma derived from the suffered experiences reflected on these real stories, as it is the Pine and Mcdonagh's case. They also want to transmit a message of hope and strength to all women who can identify themselves with them. These Irish writers who firstly refuge themselves within the silence which oppressed them, keeping it in secret, in order to get free at a later stage of that state of shame and fear. In this way, Pine and Mcdonagh research strongly being able of telling their hard and real stories towards a state of transformation, resilience, and resistance that leads them to change their lives and identify. So, taking all this into consideration, I would like to emphasize that my main intention through this paper is demonstrating how some literary genres, such as essays, are used by some contemporary Irish women writers who make their own female and feminist activism through literature. As a starting point, well, I would like to mention here that the two works which are going to be analyzed are as follows. Notes to Self by Emilie Pine and Unsubtle, published in 2021 by Rosaleen Mcdonagh. Throughout these two works by Pine and Rosaleen Mcdonagh, we could say that the reader can easily see these two authors, as we could say by using Julia Kristeva's terms, melancholy subjects, abject subjects, traumatized subjects, and subjects in process as well, because they finally try to overcome their traumas and all the different traumatic experiences they suffer in order to look for a new identity and to overcome all these traumas. We could say, just as a very brief theoretical framework, that, well, regarding trauma, mentioning Kathy Carruth, it is defined as an overwhelming experience of sudden or catastrophic events in which the response to the event occurs in the often delayed, uncontrolled, repetitive appearance of hallucinations and other intrusive phenomena. Um, Within the practical framework we're going to offer next, we could say that apart from trauma, well, sorry, different traumatic experiences that these two authors have lived and show in these two works, we could say that something which is quite obvious is the presence of gender violence, physical, sexual, and also psychological violence against women is present in these two works. But concretely, if we want to say something making reference to Emilie Pine's work, we could say that some of the traumatic experiences that she reflects in this work is, for example, the experience of not being able of having a baby and suffer an abortion. Also, the problems of infertility, critics on some literary laws related to women's rights when they are pregnant. All this can be seen in the second essay of Notes to Self, entitled From the Baby Years. And regarding Rosaleen Mcdonagh, we're going to find some traumatic experiences related to her disability, to her impairment, and also is present the inequality. And this activist writer also offers some critics on some laws related to women's rights, especially these affecting disabled women as her. Obviously, other concept which is very present throughout these two works is the one of identity. We could say that identity in general terms, and concretely the idea of the search of a new identity, as well as the transmission of a final positive message of strength and courage for overcoming the problems and traumatic experiences that these authors have lived with, are present as well in these two works here selected. Regarding the first writer we are going to talk about, we could say there's some, I can show you here in the screen some of the most important aspects of her life. Okay, we could say that thanks to this book, to Notes to Self, she won and Port Iris Book Award in 2018, the same year of her publication. As I mentioned before, we're going to talk about concretely to the second essay offered in this book, in Notes to Self. But before making some comments on some of the quotes I have selected for you to see, I would like to say that we could say that Pine is more honest in this collection of essays, where she speaks powerfully from her painful personal experience on some social taboos, which are especially taboos in Ireland, as I said before. Taboos, we could say, about female pain and traumas regarding sexual violence, menstrual blood, the way young women use their bodies as a weapon about themselves, and the grief of miscarriage and infertility. Emilie Pine makes clear the presence of strength, resilience, resistance, and identity as very important factors or values. Well, I will show you now some quotations I have selected that I would like to make some comments on. In this one appearing on the screen, we could say that the author starts expressing how she feels when she tries to get pregnant and the first complications appear. She will begin even questioning herself if all this effort worth her wish for being a mother. Concretely, in this quotation, she is explaining in a very specific detail how she feels as a woman going to the doctor and opening her legs for the doctors, for the speculum, once and again and again and again. Pine tells also in detail all the difficulties she finds and how she and her partner suffer when doctors notice that something goes wrong when she finally becomes pregnant. She finally suffers a miscarriage. In this quotation, she deeply criticizes Irish constitution due to the unfair treatment and no consideration at all that women suffer because of the information about what is happening inside their bodies is rejected. In the first quotation appearing here in this slide, Emilie Pine explains the reader why she decides to go to a private clinic for further information, and later on, when it is confirmed that the fetus, unfortunately, is not alive, she becomes, I'm going to use now Pine's own words, the patient that matters. Is, as I said before, is a critic on some Irish laws regarding this, regarding these sort of things when a woman in Ireland is pregnant. And well, the final quotation appearing here, the second one on the screen, we could say that is a very important one because it contains a positive message, and I would also say that it's even a feminist message, due to she learns how to appreciate. Emilie Pine learns and tries to teach how to appreciate her body, I mean, how to appreciate our own bodies as women, and to stop mistaking femininity for weakness. That's why this quotation says, and I quote, "I can give myself permission to be someone else, someone other than a mother, someone other than the woman manically checking her cervical mucus. I see a life ahead for us, a shared life, a great life. Though we do not have the joy of biological children, there are many ways to have a childful life. And it turns out there are many ways to have a childful life. A recent and important shift of emphasis for me. I am done marking myself through absence. I am done using the word failure about my body. I am done living and writing that story." Well, now let's move on to the second author we're going to deal with. And the book we will analyze later on, it's entitled Unsettled, published in 2021, as I said before. This author, this Irish woman writer, was born with a disability, and obviously all this is going to mark her whole life. Before starting talking about the book we are going to analyze, as a curiosity, I have to say that I knew this author, Rosaleen Mcdonagh, thanks to Emilie Pine, because she was talking about Rosaleen Mcdonagh and this book, Unsettled, during a conference that Emilie Pine offered in a couple of years ago at the University of Granada. Well, so as I said, this collection of essays, where Mcdonagh clearly opens herself, is written to share all her fears, worries, and traumatic experiences that she has suffered being a traveler and a woman with an impairment. According to Emilie Pine, this collection of essays, and I quote, is moving and eloquent. It is the story of one woman's life and a work of a profound literary activism. After reading it, if you are lucky to read it, and I really recommended you to do it, you will appreciate and you will share this opinion with Emilie Pine, because we can check all this from the very beginning. And it's something that we can easily see in this first quotation. That is, this quotation is in the introduction of the book. It says, living with trauma requires strategic thinking and planning. My physical, emotional, and psychological safety is always a worry. Every paragraph in every essay came with tears. This collection is a celebration of not having succeeded in taking my own life. Writing is a gift that has saved me from myself. These essays are not by an inspirational person. These essays are not by a super creep. These essays don't pathologize my traveler ethnicity or my gender. There was no triumphant moment of overcoming the violence inflicted on me. Instead, these pieces embody a diverse experience of what it is to be Irish. This book, finally, allows me to take ownership of my fractured heart. There is a satisfaction and joy in knowing every word in this text is from me, a traveler woman with a significant impairment. We may not be formally recognized in Irish history, but we are here. Well, so as it's easily recognizable here, we could say, this author is making a very hard critique on Irish laws regarding disability, especially if you were a woman. Well, Rosaleen Mcdonagh talks also about sexual abuses that she suffered in the hands of care workers and the terrible consequences that these events have upon her. She keeps these abuses in silence for not worrying her family, but after a time, she cannot stand all this pressure, the suffering and trauma, and she decides to commit suicide. She tries, but she fails. She will start then with therapy sessions which continue along her life. In this second slide, well, I'm not going to read it because of time, but it is very, very hard to see the way she suffered this different kind of abuses when she was in a residence because of her disability, and she was suffering different kind of sexual abuses towards her. This author also speaks about the way she finds attractive to hurt her body, eating and vomiting throughout all the different essays, including in this book. Something that Julia Kristeva could associate with an abject subject. An abject subject, yes, a person who hurts herself and tries to destroy herself by eating, vomiting, and things like this, which are quite recognizable in Julia Kristeva's theories and concepts. Mcdonagh also critiques Irish law that wants to buy her silence because of these sexual abuses when they are discovered, when it's discovered that she and all the girls and also all the women in that residents were suffering this kind of sexual abuses, the government tried to cover and tried to not to publish these events, and that's why this author is also criticizing the government and some different Irish laws throughout some essays in her book. Well, this quotation appearing on the screen is with the one I would like to finish talking about Rosaleen Mcdonagh and Unsettled. This belonged to an essay within this book. This essay is entitled Shame, and it reflects the deep suffering that the author has had during all her life. Firstly, because of her disability, the sexual abuses she suffered, and how all this became a serious trauma on her. This essay is concretely in the middle of the book, and it summarizes in a perfect and in a very hard way how she feels. And I quote, "Shame lives in you. Shame that you let your family down by not entering the world with a perfect body. Shame that you let your family down by not entering the world with a perfect mind. Shame that you don't have a different, more manageable impairment. Shame that you left your family at a very young age. Shame that you went to a special school. Shame that you cannot hold a pencil or a crayon. Shame that you struggle to read. Shame that you are a girl rather than a boy. Shame that you allow yourself to be violated and beaten. Shame that you were not able to run away. Shame that you were contaminated by subtle people." As conclusions, I would say that, as we have just checked, there is a literary female activism in Irish contemporary literature written by women in general, and particularly in literary genres as essays. As seen, this kind of genre, essays, deal with serious and current problems concerning women. Emilie Pine, or even new women writers becoming popular, such as Rosaleen Mcdonagh, feel the necessity to report what other women, Irish and not only Irish, and also themselves, have suffered the consequences of being treated from inequality, being gender violence victims, or simply not being listened to, not being their experiences, lives, and feelings considered as important enough as being dealt with. This has happened along the time, and unfortunately still do. That's why telling stories about these topics in the third person, as many writers do, or even in the in the first one, as Emilie Pine and Mcdonagh do, give women in general, and all the female writers in particular, the strength and courage of joining their voices to change some much needed aspects of today's society. Well, that has been all. Thank you very much for your attention. Yes, in case you have a question or whatever, please feel free to tell me. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.